Hello, welcome to the Make It Work podcast, a podcast about performers making their own work. I'm Cluanny Saunders. I am your host, and despite how I sound, I am in fact based in the UK. So we will be focusing on performers that are based in the UK. That'll be most of our guests. As a performer, I have found, leaving drama school and into working in the industry, that everyone is always encouraging you to make your own work. But how do we do that? So the focus of this podcast is talking to performers and seeing how they are doing that, how they are making their own work, how that's changed the industry for them, how they got their projects funded, who helped them along the way. All of those questions you have about how to make your own work, we're going to try and answer here in this podcast. So without further ado, my guest today is Anca Vaida, which I was pronouncing wrong for many years, we discussed. Anca is a Romanian actress, director, writer, and producer based in London. She trained at East 15 Drama School. Anca's most recent project, and what we will mostly be talking about today, is her TV series Psyched, a medical drama focused on mental health topics, which she wrote, directed, and produced, and starred in. Wow, that's quite a role list there. Psyched has received over 50 awards and official selections at international film festivals, including Anca's 7 Best Actress wins and 6 Best Director wins and nominations. Other notable acting projects include BBC Radio's Crossing Continents, the play Fine and Dandy at King's Head Theatre, and the play Sorry, My Compassion is on the Blink at the Pleasance Theatre. Anca is currently directing the TV series The Veteran, working with Oscar-winning producer of The Silent Child, Julie Foy, and Film Vault Group's Mark Busby. Anca has been a guest lecturer for the past 4 years on the filmmaking and directing BA course at the Middlesex University, London, teaching the workshop Directing Actors. She is also, my goodness, what a CV. She is also a film judge for the 4th edition of the Believe Psychology Film Festival in Los Angeles. In her spare time, when not acting and directing, Anca is also a doctor for the NHS. My goodness. I do not know how you do that, but that is so impressive. So welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So to take me back a little bit, you trained at East 15, and was making your own work part of the course at East 15?
It was one of the emphasis that I did. So I did a master's in acting. And our master's project was a self-devised piece to kind of teach us or allow us to learn how to make our own work.
Oh, that's fantastic. What was the piece? Was it theater? Was it?
It was theater, yeah. And we each chose our topics, and then we found people to work with and developed it together as a group. So, yeah.
Yeah, so you were having to produce and perform in as well? Yeah. Great. So that was a pretty clear start.
Definitely.
And then when you left the industry, when you left drama school, was there any particular impetus that made you go, right, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to make my own work?
Actually, it took a while for me to decide that. So, because I've left drama school in 2016 and I started writing my own work, I think was 2019. So it was quite a few years later. Initially, I went as an actor. I tried to get as many acting jobs, and I did get a lot of fringe theater plays, a lot of student films, but I felt like I needed to get a bit further. I needed something bigger. And I felt like at that point I could do something bigger, acting-wise, in terms of my experience and everything. But all the auditions I would get that were in bigger projects, like from my agents at the time, were things like Eastern European cleaner. And they were 2 or 3 auditions a year, and that was it. And I felt like I'm so much more than that. I can do so much more than that. And I thought, why am I waiting? Why don't I actually do something to kind of do the bigger things that I think I can do? So that's kind of how it all started.
Yeah. So do you still find that the industry sort of does put Eastern European actors in quite a small box?
It's interesting because since doing Psyched, now I have a fantastic agent. which I feel, having done Psyched, winning awards as Best Actress, got me to the point where I can approach a better agent. And with this agent, I'm getting a lot more auditions. A lot of them are still Eastern European type characters, or Russian, French, Spanish, because I speak several languages. So foreigners. But I'm also seeing for doctors. I'm also seeing other things that I am, rather than just this small pigeonhole type characters.
Yeah.
So I think it has opened some doors for me.
So your character in Psyched is a doctor.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you want to just give us a sort of a basic outline of what Psyched is about? I mean, I spoke a little bit about it.
So Psyched is a medical drama. So as you mentioned, I'm a doctor as well, and I specialize in mental health. So I'm a consultant psychiatrist. And people have always asked me, why don't I write? And I always felt like, I'm not a writer. Like, I wouldn't know what to write about. I'm just not a writer. And then when I thought, like, why don't I write? As soon as I thought that, I started getting ideas. I started getting images. As soon as that decision was taken. So that's when I decided I'm going to write a medical drama, which has quite a bit of comedy as well, that will be about psychiatry. And in particular, so Psyched, it's following a community mental health team, which is the type of work that I mostly do, and kind of showing a very realistic take on both the professionals working in mental health as well as the patients and the kind of illnesses and just generally everything about psychiatry and how it is at this point in London. One of the main reasons why I wrote and wanted to show this particular topic was also to combat stigma, because there is a lot of stigma about mental health and also about mental health professionals in the profession. So I'm hoping that by showing this kind of very realistic view that we will manage to do that as well. Did I answer what you asked?
You absolutely did. You absolutely did. I also think I was just thinking it was so interesting to hear you say, I'm not a writer. And I think so many of us struggle with that block when trying to make our own work. And how did you push past that? Did you do any training, or did you just go, just going to do it?
It's interesting. I've done one very small short course at CityLit a few years ago. So when I came out from drama school, but I felt like, no, this is just isn't me. I'm not a writer. And then when I made the decision, it just started. I mean, I still don't know if it's necessarily good or not. I still don't know. I don't know. I
love that. I think that's how everyone must feel whenever writing things.
But before Psyched, I did a couple of short films as well.
Okay.
So, for example, the short film Can We Order First? It's one that me and a very good friend of mine, Kova Kamblo, she's also an actress in Psyched, and we've trained together on an access course before I went to East 15. We wrote it together. It was very strongly based on a conversation we had that was me telling her I've decided to become a vegan.
Yeah.
And her reaction being something that we later laughed about, that it seemed like a homophobic parent reacting to her child coming out.
Yeah.
So we decided we make a short film out of this, kind of using the conversation we had on Facebook. So we made this short based on that. And again, I co-directed it, I produced it. And with that one, we went to the Berlin Short Film Festival. So that was quite exciting. And we won an award at an Indian Film Festival for Best LGBT Film. And then we went to America to Cinema Sisters Film Festival with it. And now it's also having distribution on Lesfix platform. So that's kind of one of the things that were pre-Psyched.
So why a TV series? You could have written a short film. You could have written why did you want to make a TV series?
It just felt that the stories that I wanted to tell were best told in a TV series format. In the sense of, once I made the decision to write something about it, I thought there were so many type of patients, type of illnesses, so many stories that I could tell. And it just felt like it would suit a lot more the TV series format. And also because, especially in community mental health, it's not like how sometimes we see, for example, in surgery, when someone comes with a problem, you fix it and that's it. problem sorted. In psychiatry, a lot of our patients get better, get worse, get better, get worse. And that kind of story I felt was best told in a TV series type format.
Great. And so you had the idea, you decided it's going to be a TV series. Did you write the full script? Did you write a pilot? What was step number one?
Again, my process is very messy. Very messy. So initially I thought, okay, what I want to do is 16 episodes of about 30 minutes each.
So more an American format, because English tends to be slightly shorter, right?
Very possible.
Yeah.
And then I started writing. I realized how incredibly difficult it is to write, because that is about, like, it translates about 1 minute of screen time is about 1 page in writing. So that would mean having to write 16 times 30 pages of content.
Yeah.
So then it reduced to 12, and then it reduced to 8. Because I thought, okay, for the first season, it could be 8 episodes. If this is ever going to be taken on by a big production company to have distribution and so on, then I have enough material in my head to do another 5 seasons. But for the time being, given that I'm kind of doing all the work, let's take it down to 8 episodes and tell the story of the first season within 8 episodes. And initially I thought maybe I'll just try to do the pilot and kind of have that as an example to try and approach production companies and so on to see if they would take it on and do the rest.
Proof of concept sort
Exactly.
of. Yeah.
Exactly. So initially, as I said, my writing process is very messy, because as soon as I decided that I wanted to write, I already started getting the image of the first scene and how the whole series is going to open with a hand knocking on the door, and I could see
I was reading your
image.
first episode last night, so that's
It's exactly how it starts, isn't
how
it?
it starts.
Like, I had that image, I had a few images. Then, for example, I wrote a character without realizing. So I wrote a whole story about the patient with schizophrenia, with different symptoms and so on. And then one of my actors said, oh, that's very similar to, oh my God, I'm having a lapsus now, Better Call Saul, the character that has, and I'm like, oh no, it can't be similar. So I went and watched those episodes, and I'm like, nope, has to change. So I crossed it completely off because I didn't want it to be that similar. So I wrote something completely different. So as you said, did I write a whole pilot? For some things, I wrote characters' backgrounds. Just a whole, that doesn't even appear in the dialogue, doesn't appear in the episodes, but I knew what the character's background, what their story was, and then some of the scene came out from that. For others, I had scenes visually that I was already seeing how it's happening, and then I just wrote the scene down. For others, I would know, for example, there is a love story that's happening throughout the season, and then I just wrote the whole love story throughout the 8 episodes, even though I didn't have the whole pilot completed, but I had this love story, and that continued throughout, like it continued the whole process. And even a few days before filming the last scenes that we filmed, I would still change things. So it was always a very organic process, and things changed, and some actors came on board, and then I had to develop their scenes from what I initially wrote to, I'll tell you a bit more about that later on, I think. But yeah, so it was a very fluid process. It was messy.
Yeah.
It was messy, but that's kind of what worked for me.
Yeah.
The pilot was almost completed when I decided, okay, we're filming it.
Okay.
And then that I work amazingly with time pressure. So that forced me to kind of finish it. So I had a finished script, let's say, but even days before filming specific scenes, I would change things. So I would change things, not big things, like, not to completely throw my actors off, being like, here's your script, your character is completely different. No. But kind of some lines or some, would still change. A lot of it might change based on the location, because we tried 3 times to film some scenes outside and it was pouring rain. So then we had to change it to an indoor scene, and then several things had to change because of the location. So I would change the script based on that. So that's kind of when you make your own work, it has to be very fluid and adaptable. So then had kind of the script for the pilot, and we filmed the pilot. And then for the other episodes, I just had scenes here and there, not episode finished. But because the pilot became so successful, the script started winning awards.
Great.
People started approaching me asking, hey, if you have any parts for me. The massive, massive help was the fact that I could film at the hospital where I work. So at South London and Maudsley, they allow me to film in their outpatients department and in one of the community mental health teams. So once that happened, I thought, well, rather than just pitching the pilot and hoping someone would pick it up, why don't I film all the hospital scenes while I still have the locations, because you never know how long you're going to have access to those locations. So film those scenes from episodes 2 to 8. And, you know, at least I have them. At least I have with the location. But then when I started doing that, I thought, well, why don't I film all of it? Because people are approaching. People are asking to be part of it. They're asking if they can help with, including offering their homes, including, you know, just to be a part of it. And I thought, why don't we do all of it? So that's kind of how, and that put more pressure on me to finish the script as well, because like, well, it had to be done because we were going to film it.
And so you were saying just a little bit there, but you had shot the pilot and people started saying, hey, let me be a part of this. But when you were going to shoot the pilot, how did you assemble a team? You know, because were they people you'd worked with before in other projects or?
So the most important person to me was Alice Catanzaro. She was my assistant producer and she helped me massively. She is a vet. But she also studied stage management and she's very passionate about theater. And we were together in a play. I was acting in this play and she was the stage manager. It was called This Play Will Solve Climate Change. And again, it was something self-devised. And the director was Laura Bagley. And it was a fantastic experience. And yeah, I just asked Alice if she wanted to come on board and help out with this. And she was very keen. So that was one of the starting points. And she knew our DOP. And she brought him on board. And then I had several runners that came later on after we've done the pilot from the Middlesex Uni where I started teaching at that point. So they came on board wanting to be part of it. All the actors that I've had were people that I either trained at drama school or I was in plays or short films with.
Oh, great.
So everyone were people that I knew.
Yeah.
And then, as I said, as things progressed, I had people approaching me, like including one of my drama school teachers wanting to be in it. And she's just fantastic actress, was at the National. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then I developed a whole character for her. And I had people approaching because I wanted to have some beautiful art on the walls, and again to give people opportunity if they wanted to show their art as well. So I asked on social media, anyone wants their art on the series? And several people approached me, say, yes, I would love to. I'm going to bring you my paintings, or, you know, again, I put an ad if anyone on my Facebook, if anyone wanted to be extras, and I had like 150 people saying, oh my God, I'd love to. Some of them actors, and again, I wrote some lines for them so they can be part of this and try to develop it. So yeah, it just grew from there more and more.
Did you have anyone who was helping you, a mentor, or did you have anyone that sort of helped or inspired you along the way that you like to mention? In the early stages, did you send your script to anyone? Did you just kind of...
No, I just went for it. I don't know. Maybe it was madness. But I didn't have any of that. And yeah, as I said, Alice helped me loads with things like when we had to look for some locations, she helped me look for those, or things like props, or, you know, but not necessarily in a mentor type way, but more in like, you know, my right hand to try and source things. But not really, no. I don't know. I think it helped a lot that I had the training at drama school and that I had a lot of experience on stage, on short films, doing a lot of student films. Like before that, I've done any student films that I could find. So I think I've learned a lot from that. And I don't know, just craziness and luck. And Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, well, I
just
think
went
it
for it.
takes a little bit of craziness
Yeah.
because everyone will tell you it's really hard.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I guess one of my questions is to anyone who's doing this, what do you think? Because we all have ideas, right? Every actor you talk to is like,
Yeah.
I want to do this play about, or I want to write this TV series, or I've got this. But why are you the person who gets from the idea
Yeah.
to the final stage of like, here's my actual product?
Yeah.
What makes you that person?
I don't know. I don't know what makes me that person. I mean, I am generally the type of personality-wise that I'm like, let's get this done. Like quite practical, quite, how can we make this done? What needs doing? But I also think like I had a great group of actors, for example, that I've worked with for many years before. And for example, when I started writing the pilot and everything, I wrote some of the characters based on those actors. So rather the other way around. And I knew they will be in it. I knew they wanted to be part of it. So I think that matters, or the network you have. The network matters immensely because it will be possible once you start. It will be possible because all these people are interested to be part of it. And as we said, like it started small and then it just grew from there. It could not have grown. It could have just ended with a pilot, that's it, but we still would have had a pilot.
It's funny you should say that because our last guest also said it's about the team that you have around you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so important. It's so important. And also, it was a lot about taking chances as well. Because, for example, I didn't have a makeup artist, and someone literally approached me on Facebook being like, hey, do you need a makeup artist? Like, I wasn't even advertising. And I said, yeah, that would be amazing. Come. And since then, she came all the time. She brought a few assistants to help her. I've done a few other film projects with her, and she's someone like, if I have any projects, I'm going to take her with me because she was there when I needed it. So if I can help now, definitely. So yeah, it's taking chances on people, but also knowing that your core team will show up for you on the day. I think that matters so much.
Can you tell me about a challenge you faced in making this project and how you dealt with that?
I mean, I don't know a specific challenge, but one of the challenges we definitely had was the fact that there was no budget. So we had absolutely no budget, and it was around COVID time as well. So a lot of the time we weren't able to film because of COVID. It had, when we were allowed to meet, and it had to be very strict regulations to check, and everyone had to sign a COVID risk assessment.
Yeah.
As you probably remember.
Yes.
So that was one of the things, because we always were like, okay, are we going into lockdown? So it was all that being on edge. Is it going to happen? Is everyone safe? And actually we did have to cancel sometimes because someone would test positive before,
Okay.
and then everything was canceled and we had to reschedule. And again, going back to the fact that there was absolutely no budget. So again, because it was COVID time, a lot of the funding applications had been closed. So yeah. But on the other hand, we got a lot of resources for free. So we kind of, yeah. But because of no budget, I had to make the whole schedule based on people's availability. In total, for the whole series, I had about 80 or 90 actors.
Yeah.
About 20, 25 people in the crew. I should know the exact numbers, but, and another about, 100 extras that we had on set on different days. Of course, this is over a total of 40 days of filming that took a year and a bit, because we filmed at weekends. I was still working as a doctor during the week. My DOP was working during the week. So we had to film at weekends. We had to film when people were available to kind of match schedules. So I did so much work. Like often I would wake up at 6 a.m. before going to work at my day job, just to try and sort out the schedule. And I had Doodle and all of that to see where can I do, when is the location available, where is this person, but that person, and the crew. And so that was a lot of hard work. Like I've put so much effort into that. And then, yeah, as I mentioned, like weather, for example, was one thing that kind of messed us up a few times with filming. But overall, I want to say we were really lucky. Like things went quite smoothly. So yeah.
And were you entirely self-funding, or was it you were entirely self-funding?
Entirely. So we had absolutely no funding at all. But the good bit, so it was things like food on set was completely out of my own savings. Some of the props, but most of the time, actually, everything was free. In the sense of locations, the hospital, that was immense.
Yeah.
Because we had so many rooms to use. So we can create different interview rooms, we can create offices, we can create everything we needed because it was already there and that was its function. So that was the biggest help. And then, for example, I had a friend that owns a hairdressing studio. So we got to film there with Clue starring.
I should say, yes, I do appear in this series at some point. Yes.
And yeah, so people genuinely offered me the location, except 2 locations that we actually had to pay for. Everything else was free. And this is the biggest thing, I think, for me at least, during the production. It was locations. Props, costumes, everyone brought their own costumes. So people, the actors that I worked with thought about their characters, thought what would suit, what would not suit. They sent me options with costumes. So everyone used their own wardrobes. We used the props that we had at home. We used, and a lot, again, when I wrote the script, I took all of this into account. So I kind of took into account the fact that I will be producing it. So I wasn't going to set a scene at the airport because there's no way in hell I could get that. I wasn't going to set a scene at the fancy hotel or restaurant because I couldn't get that. But I could get, someone's house or someone's garden or things like that. So a lot of my writing was influenced by the fact that I will be producing it. Yeah.
But that's smart. Not everyone does that. You certainly see, I've certainly seen student film scripts where it's ridiculous, ambitious locations and costumes and settings. And you kind of go, how are we going to realistically make this? And you've done that in your script. You talked a little bit about the juggling of the many, many different roles that you took on in this production. But can you tell me a little bit more about how you managed to juggle being the producer, writer, and starring in? Even just practically, obviously you were having to watch the rushes and things and seeing acting in the scene and then going back and watching it and directing.
Yeah, it's tricky. The good thing, again, about having written it and produced it meant that when I was on set, I kind of knew what I wanted. Again, another really good thing was I knew all the actors. I've worked with all the actors. I knew what they can do. I knew, what they can be great at. I wrote the characters based on the actors. So I felt a lot of the time, actually, there wasn't a lot of directing that was needed. Sometimes I would, sometimes, and especially the hardest part is kind of directing myself. Because while I can see what the other actors are doing, it's sometimes difficult to be objective. We all tend, I don't know if we all, but I tend to be quite self-critical as well. So if I watch my own rushes, I'm like, oh God, am I ruining this for all the other actors? Is everyone fantastic? And then I'm just the, black sheep of the whole process.
I think maybe the awards that you've won maybe have put that a little bit too.
Yeah, it helped.
Yeah.
But still,
we're all the same. Yeah. We're all the same. Yeah.
So it wasn't easy, but it wasn't quite as hard because of having done all the other work. Maybe had it been someone else's script and production, and then just me having to act and direct, it would make it more difficult. But because I kind of had the control of it, I knew the locations, I knew kind of what I wanted to film, how I wanted to film. I knew the actors were fantastic and what they can do. And also the crew. I knew the crew was getting the work done. I knew the lighting was going to be good. I knew. So then there wasn't quite as much that I had to do, but kind of bring them together, make sure we all have the same kind of vision, explain maybe the blocking of what we wanted to film. But yeah, after that, it wasn't quite as hard as it could have been.
Would you do it again, do you reckon?
Well, difficult question. In the sense of, there are times when I think should I have stopped after the pilot? In the sense of, is the pilot that won all the awards and is still going through festivals, because that's the one we sent out. But other times, so just to specify, so episodes 2 to 8 are still in post-production in different stages. So they've all kind of been edited, but they're still now getting the sound design, color grading, music added. So it's now hopefully soon going to be finalized. And then we're going to try and get distribution for it. I don't know if we'll manage. So I have no idea where it's going to go. I had the chance to pitch it to Paramount and to HBO Max when I was in Miami at the film festival, where we had some nominations and I won Best Actress.
Yes!
Yeah.
Shout about it.
And they were very interested in it. So I'm hoping that eventually when it's done, it might get somewhere. Like, my dream would be to actually get it on a TV channel. Like, you know, BBC, why not? They like their medical dramas.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they're listening.
But I don't know if it will. So if it does, then it's going to be all really worth it, because I feel like for all of us, just to be in something that is on TV would be a huge step forward in our career, and also for the audience to kind of see all these stories, to learn about psychiatry, to learn about how things are. So I think that would be amazing. If not, I'm thinking of potentially putting it on Amazon Prime. So even if we can't get it on TV. So from that point of view, it would have definitely been worth it. And also, you asked, would I do it again? So if it's taken on by others, I would love for there to be more seasons. If not, I don't think I'm going to continue doing the seasons, but I am potentially going to do a feature film now about something else.
Yeah.
So in a way, I think the answer might be yes.
Yeah, you put yourself in the same position, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And is that because it was so rewarding as a project itself, or is it still because you're wanting to make your own work? What's the drive to do that again?
It's several things, I think. In all, like, if I'm thinking completely honestly, probably if my acting career were to completely take off, then I probably wouldn't do it, because it would be a lot of work, and I'm aware, and eventually I want to be able to just, you know, my acting to take off, and maybe some directing as well. But as that isn't happening yet, it would be, one of the reasons would be to kind of try and get my career further. But I also feel like this other story that I have in my head now, I think it would be an interesting original story that hasn't been told yet. Yeah. And again, I'm thinking a bit in the sense of, am I going to produce it all yet? Then the writing needs to match, as we said, locations and everything based on what I can do and my team can do. Or do I want to write a script that is a bit more difficult to produce, but maybe now with everything, with the awards, and maybe we'll try and get someone with money to fund it. And so there are a lot of things happening in my head at the moment.
Yeah. And how has it changed? How has Psyched changed the game, as we, you know, the industry for you, would you say?
I mean, I feel it has changed greatly. Starting from the moment when we started filming it, as I said, so initially the script starting winning awards, and then the pilot starting winning awards, and then people that I would have never dreamt would want to work with me starting approaching me, asking to work together. So then just the opportunity to work with some people. And then from that point on, as I mentioned, winning the Best Actress Awards, I think allowed me to get a better agent. And now I have better auditions. I mean, I had an audition with one of my acting, for a part in a scene with one of my acting idols. I didn't get it, but just the fact to be considered for that, for me, is such a huge step. And it was the role of a doctor. So again, I think just by having done Psyched, I got to that point. And also, so this is kind of on the acting route. But also my directing has definitely taken on, because since then I've been asked to direct a couple of short films, a couple of plays that I've done, that I don't think I would have been asked had Psyched not happened. And then one of the film festival founders where we won awards 2 years ago. So Psyched was nominated and was a finalist, and I won Best Actress runner-up. He approached me to ask if I wanted to be part of one of his projects. And I said, yeah, sounds amazing, why not? And then I found out this project is actually going to be a TV series. So now I'm the director. I'm officially the director for the project. It's a TV series called The Veteran, as you mentioned. It has an Oscar-winning producer on board. We have Gail Porter as a presenter. We have Brian Blessed as one of the people involved. So already I feel like the level of people that I'm working, like they're definitely, you know, above where I was before in the sense of experience and just career-wise. And none of this would have happened if Psyched hadn't existed.
So what's your biggest takeaway, maybe? What's the biggest thing you've learned over this time creating, making, filming, Psyched, that you might say to someone who's like, do you know what, I've got this fun idea for a TV series. What's the thing you would say to them as your piece of advice?
I would say just do it. Like, that is the thing, like just actually doing it, because a lot of people get stuck in, as you said, in different stages, but it's actually just kind of pushing past and doing it. And if anyone needs any help or advice, I'm more than happy to offer my, mind. But there is an expression, I can't think of it now.
Let them pick your brain, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, yeah.
But I think that's maybe the thing as well. Like you're saying, it's amazing what you can get if you just ask. In some ways, like what you were talking about.
100%. 100%. Like, I didn't think all these actors, when I started approaching them, everyone will say yes. But people did. People wanted to be involved, even from the beginning when there were no awards or anything. People said yes. And it definitely gave me more hope. Like, if I am to do something in the future, they might want to be involved as well. Yeah.
It is amazing. I mean, certainly, I'm not sure if I was involved after the awards or not. But, when I got your email, I was like, I know Anca and I liked working with her. Why would I not say yes,
Perfect. And if the feature film is happening,
give me a call. So you're a judge on the Believe Psychology Film Festival, right? And can you tell me just a little bit about that?
Again, it's something that came out of Psyched. And 2 years ago, I won Best Therapist Performance for my role in Psyched. And now I'm a judge for the festival, and it's going to happen in a couple of weeks in LA. And it's a film festival about films about psychology, psychiatry. And I'm also part of the panel. And it's all about kind of mental health, psychology, and film, and how we show that through film and how we combat stigma. So again, something that came out of Psyched, because before that I didn't even know about this festival, and now I'm kind of part of it and helping it happen. And yeah, it's very exciting. There is something very exciting about that, but I'm not sure if I can say it yet. So that might be in a couple of weeks' time.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll wait with bated breath. As an actor and writer myself, if I was ever going to think of directing for film, I would be quite daunted. I think theater, I have a good understanding of the direction side, although I'm sure some theater directors might disagree. But in terms of film, I think I'd be quite daunted by all the technical aspects of film. Was that at all daunting to you?
I know what you mean. I'm still daunted by it, even though I've done so much now. I've done a course. So after I finished E15, I did do a short course again at CityLit about filmmaking and directing film. Like you, I still feel that directing theater, or basically directing actors, is kind of what I know more than the technical aspects. But I guess you also learn a lot as you do it. You learn about a lot of things, and having done the course was also helpful. And you saw now I teach about directing actors at the film school. And there we focus a lot on character work, relationships, so things that translate theater and screen. But yeah, if you have a great DOP, if you have a great sound person,
so you lean a little bit on them for the technical.
Yeah.
As you should. It's fantastic that you have such a positive team. I actually, when I was on, I keep saying, when I was on your set, but I did notice you had a really lovely vibe in the space.
Yeah. And I think that matters immensely. I think, people to just want to come and have fun and, takes away a lot of the pressure and the stress and self-consciousness as an actor. And yeah.
Obviously you were just talking about your work where you are guiding people into how to direct actors. Do you think you as an actor have sort of a unique take on direction because you're coming from the place of being an actor yourself?
I think so because, my take on direction is very heavily based on how we were taught acting and directed at East 15. I found that training just immensely helpful and insightful, and I felt I've learned so much about me as an actor and as a person. And I think that's kind of what I use as well to teach others how to direct. Because I feel that's what works for me as an actor, and I felt that's what worked when I was directing other actors as well. So it's kind of, yeah.
I guess my question now is, what is next for you, if you want to talk a little bit about anything that's coming up?
So the most exciting thing coming up is The Veteran, the one that I mentioned already, which I didn't mention quite what it is, but it's a reality TV series about veterans who are paired with celebrities. And the veterans have experienced homelessness and PTSD, disability. So they are chosen specifically for the hardship that they have faced after coming out of the service. And also the support that they've received. We have a wonderful charity, Home for Help for Homeless Veterans, that is behind it all, and kind of shining a light to that. And then also we have the entertainment element, where we put the celebrities to go through some of the hardship that the veterans have experienced. So yeah, it's going to be quite exciting.
Great. Well, good luck with it. And thank you so much for your time today. It's been really exciting and interesting to hear you talk about all the aspects of the work that you've been making.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Make It Work podcast, a podcast about performers making their own work. If you enjoyed the podcast, please shout about it. Share it on Twitter, on Instagram. You can follow us at Make It Work Podcast UK, or you can email us if you want to have any specific guests on. We'd love to hear what you thought. This is a new podcast, and if you have specific guests you want to see or questions you want us to ask, please let us know. You can contact us at makeitworkpodcastuk@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Thanks for learning with us, and keep making it work.